Good afternoon. How are you today? Well, it's pretty warm out, 90-ish, uh, and the wind is still, but it's beautiful. So we'll take what we got. I have a very funny image of America when they do something like send a Hellfire missile, which is an anti-tank missile, to shoot a specific individual who is standing out on a porch where he does it every day, or there's some opening overhang. And they've been watching him do this, so they confirm that he's done it. And then they assassinate him, they execute him. Now, other presidents have done it before. Biden did it yesterday, apparently, or that is authorized it. Trump had done it, and Obama had done it. But it just doesn't strike me as our proudest performance. And it does seem that we do it to show our testosterone level to get the bad guys. And I wonder how much we consider the implication of such a murderous act. Yes, the person, al-Zawahiri, is a terrorist of the first order, and he was aligned with Al-Qaeda from the beginning. And 9/11, we had one of the worst days in American history, comparable, of course, to World War II, Pearl Harbor, and there were other days. So, is this who we are? We say we're better than this when we do these brutal things. So what am I saying? Well, should there have been an effort to attack and seize him and bring him back and try him? You know, Israel did that, so it can be done. They did it with the World War II criminals, and they had public trials, and they found them guilty of certain crimes, and then the punishment was rendered. There's something these days about the absence of due process that makes an act that might be acceptable in other times is not acceptable. And I'm an Irishman. I believe in a fight, and I certainly believe in a person accounting for their criminal conduct. And there's just something wrong about this version of America. It also authorizes, it seems to me, people assassinating our public figures as well, whether they be in the armed services or they, be our chief of state. And that's just not an acceptable worldwide rule, it seems to me, that we can do that. But there it is. America is not enjoying its finest hours. And day by day, we're surprised by who, it seems to me, fails some standard that would continue to make us the marker for independence and freedom and good conduct around the world. Am I criticizing Biden? No, I assume, 18 military types with lots of stuff on their shoulders told them we should do this, and then we did it. So there we have it. Now, what else is going on? We have, I think, 5 elections going on, and it will be interesting to see the outcome in a couple of ways. I think 24 endorsements have been made by Trump in these elections. A number of the candidates who are running saying that the election was stolen, which is Trump's view. We have in Kansas a vote on whether or not to eliminate a right to abortion for women. And since it's Kansas, I suppose people think if Kansas won't do that, that would show us that a fairly conservative state recoils from the notion of taking away from women this right. And I guess they're saying it wouldn't show anything if a conservative state decided to pass this amendment. The other thing we have to observe about such a move is that a constitutional right is not a right that is based on the majority choosing it. It is an individual right, meaning it can be very unpopular and is asserted by the individual against everybody else, that they should be allowed sacrosanct from others who disagree with them. But this right in statute, or the denial of it, is going to be based on a majority vote. And that's not how a constitutional right works, since it's an individual right of liberty asserted against everyone else. If you want a simple one, which is a mixed blessing, you talk about the right to worship as you choose. If a state were to limit that for unpopular religions or not represented by the majority, that would be violating a constitutional right. The flip side of it is no government can establish a right, which in a way is a discrimination against those rights that are not the one that's chosen. A right of free speech, to say things that maybe nobody else agrees with, as long as it's speech. I've always said that free speech can be a prepositional freedom. You have freedom of speech. You don't always have freedom after speech. So we'll be looking at these candidates to see what happened. The mistake I think some Democrats have made is to support the candidate they think will be the worst in the general election to help the Democrat win. That's a dangerous game, because what happens is you end up with the worst candidate perhaps surprising you and actually getting elected. I offer Trump as one example of this, because some people thought, oh, it'd be hilarious. There's also another really interesting idea going on. In Florida, if a woman is carrying a fetus, they are going to allow for a dependent to be taken on your taxes. And I think it's something like $3,000. So this is another way to build the argument that a zygote, a fecundated ovum, a fetus is a person, so that then you can prosecute a woman for killing a person, the fetus within her, including within a miscarriage. What a sick America we have, don't you think? And so that's a Roe v. Wade question. So let's talk about guns. There's a festival in Atlanta, and it's being called off because the persons and groups who would perform always have a rider that guns are not allowed in the venue where they're performing, for their own safety and the safety of the crowd, and because of incidents we've seen over the years before this cultish affection for guns became so overriding, and maybe it's always been there. But because they can't get the community of Atlanta to agree to ban guns, the festival is going to be called off. That's a very interesting result. We see the compromise of a celebratory event, a fun event, a musical event, because we can't trust citizens who have guns on them to remain civilized. The definition of a civilization is how a nation treats its own. So guns are more important than music, more important than children alive, more important than innocents who may be killed. And people now run for office saying an election was thievery, not properly run. And we have an attorney general who sits on the case that makes the argument that what happened on January the 6th was an affront to everything that America purports to stand for. And it's kind of an act of savagery that we shoot a man with a missile that would destroy a tank. So there we have it. That's all I have for today. And I'm in my cathedral of trees where sanity reigns and people enjoy themselves and feel good being with nature. Bye-bye.